Well, let's
mention
go
his
to
name.
the final segment of the potty and hand over to Swinny.
Oh, I've been dreading this. I've been dreading this. So,
Mm,
all right. So, I'm
mm,
going to talk about dungeon encounters, but
mm.
I'm giving everyone a warning that this is the hardest game I think I'll ever have to explain. Not because it's complicated. If anything, it's not super complicated. But all the game is systems and mechanics. So, if I lose anyone along the way, I'm so sorry. I'm trying my best. But basically, dungeon encounters. So it was actually announced Tokyo Game Show. So only like we talked about last show, so it's only been less than 2 weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and came out on Friday. So very quick announcement to when it dropped. It's developed and published by Square Enix. It's coming. It's out on Steam, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. So I picked it up on Nintendo Switch, and it's essentially, I'm going to repeat a little bit of what I mentioned last week, but I think for anyone coming straight to this segment, I think I need to. It's a bit of a pet project from Final Fantasy legend Hiroyuki Ito, who's behind some of the series' most famous battle mechanics, including the active time battle system, which is essentially everything from Final Fantasy 4 to Final Fantasy 9 was using that famous, where you got a charge meter, and then as soon as it charges up, you can attack. And that's very apt because this game is all built around the ATB battle system as well. And yeah, so basically, I'm about 8 hours into this game, and I'll explain what the game is in a second, but I'm about 25 levels deep of a 100 level game. So there's still a lot of mechanics that are still a mystery to me. They kind of they show some of the stuff or the name of some of the stuff you can get, but you don't know what it's going to do. So a lot of what I say could potentially be even changed when I get further into the game. That's why I
Mm.
was initially going to review this game, but I think you can't fully judge the entirety of its systems until I think you really get further in. But what kind of game is it? Well, for anyone watching the video version podcast, the trailer that's playing is one of the best representations of this game. It is basically a minimalistic dungeon crawler RPG where you're descending level by level and completing the map by just filling in the empty spaces, which such a strange concept, but it's weirdly was compelling to me. So that's obviously why I picked it up and so I'll talk about in the show. But in terms of the flow of the game, think of Diablo 1 where you start I forget, do you know what the village is called? Do you remember that?
Tristram.
Yeah, Tristram. So you
Mm.
start in Tristram, and then you essentially eventually progress further and further into the dungeons by finding the stairs down. That's basically what this game is. The flow of this game is that each level you find a staircase to go to the next one, and then there's like a home base at the top with like shops and everything. When you go about like 10 levels down, you can get like a two-way teleport that takes you straight back to level one. There are other shops in different maps as you go lower down, but that flow is kind of, it felt very similar to me. It's like, okay, I am progressing further, and there's times when I may need to go back for various
Mm.
reasons. But you start off the game by choosing a party from a pool of different characters, and you get one paragraph of story. That's it. It just pops up in a window. It says, hey, there's this academy and this mysterious dungeon appeared. Go explore it, basically. And I get the feeling it's probably not going to give you more story than that. This is purely a game you play for the love of exploration and honestly like completionism. It's that kind of game. And like the characters have a little bit of background when you look at their profile, but they're all mechanically very similar. I've heard that some of them can do slightly different things as you find them because you can find new party members as you get further and deeper down. But I honestly have missed a lot of them. I've got to go back and look for them because the ways you find them, you've actually got to kind of search them out using coordinates and everything.
Question:
Yep.
Did you play as the cat?
So I haven't found the cat yet. I haven't found
Ah,
Sir Cat, unfortunately.
damn it!
So I'm looking forward to finding him. But basically, the map tiles all correspond. So you've got coordinates. So let's say you can see in the footage here for anyone watching, it's like level 20, 62, 51. And the coordinates are very important because every single event you find and and different things all lead you to those coordinates. And there's even abilities when you're exploring that you unlock where you can move upwards a level or downwards a level, but there needs to be an empty tile. There needs to be a tile when you do it. So having a knowledge of where the maps are laid out actually got me to get a pad out pen and paper
Awesome.
and actually write some of this stuff down. Now,
That's really cool.
some of it also, like when I'm like, oh, I really need to remember where that shrine is because it will heal me from this horrible status element I'll get to in a second. A lot of that stuff it will record in your log, so you can always look that up. But I still found myself using the screenshot functionality of the Switch a lot. Even for things like you're exploring the map and you will come across a map puzzle that will say, find this point, and it'll give you like a little grid and you have to find it. And I don't know if they're always on the same floor, so they're showing at the footage there. And you get really cool items from that. But then they also have math puzzles where it will show you a sequence of numbers with missing digits, and you got to figure out classic like sequences and whatever you call it to then fill in the coordinates to then go to that floor in that space to get the special items. So again, that's getting me to break the paper out and suddenly start to figure out, oh, it's
so cool.
it's add 7 then -3 for each additional digit, and that's what it is. So and that's only like the third puzzle, and there's probably like 20 of them. So it's really, really neat. But yeah, like as I'm saying, you're exploring, you're finding different events. Some of those might, be healing stations. But then there's all the battles, and thankfully this game there's no random battles in this. You can, once you've got this ability, which you get like in the second level, and you equip it, you can always see them on the floor. Some of them, like they're numbered. Well, they're all numbered, so it actually keeps a log in your battle log of what those numbers mean. Most people aren't going to look them up each time, but there's times when you may come across one that's like a super overpowered enemy. So you're like, well, I'm going to ignore anything that's got a D in front of it because that's like a super overpowered mob. But the battles themselves is where the actual, I think, complexity of this game comes in. So exploring the map and everything, that's very chill. It's almost like Picross-like in the sense that you just kind of just laid back and playing it. But when you get into battles, it gets a bit trickier. They do play out like active time battles like Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy VI, but all your enemies also have an ATB gauge. So as much as you're watching your own ATB gauge, you're watching their ATB gauge to know when they're going to be launching their attacks. Mm-hmm. And you can put it to wait. So anytime it charges up and it's your move, theirs aren't charging up. Or you can set it to active if you really want, but I wouldn't do that myself. But each character and each enemy has 3 bars underneath them, like a physical defense, a magic defense, and HP. And you need to get rid of like all of the physical using physical attacks or all the magic defense using magic attacks to then be able to do damage to that HP. So what you've got to do is you basically got to balance your party with different kinds of attacks and different kinds of abilities. It's like I found having to manage my party's gear, like that is way more important in this game than almost any RPG I've played in a long time. Basically because you've got to be flexible for any situation. So to give an example, like out of my 4 characters, we've got one that will deal, like purely physical damage, but then has a backup random magic damage ability, and another one will focus on magic, so that you've got enemies that have high either way. You can deal with either one. But then they've got like you can find like some of the cool items I was talking about. You can find a gun that petrifies enemies for a 30% chance. So it's like balancing your party is actually super important, and it's the part of the game that when people play it first, I've read some Steam reviews and heard some comments. The first 5 levels are like, okay, this is really simplistic. Like, what the hell is this game? But once you start getting deeper, the actual systems get way deeper, and it is a lot more strategic. So I'm really adamant about anyone that's interested in trying this game. Don't give up after like the first half an hour, because it gets a lot deeper and a lot more strategic. So the last thing I'll say is that the game's pretty punishing. Like you can get petrified. If you get one of your characters get petrified, they basically taken out of your party and they stay on that tile. And you've got to like go find some shrine on another level just to heal them and come back and get them.
Damn.
That kind of stuff I think is going to get easier though, because you'll probably find abilities that protect against it and stuff. So that's where I'm talking before about even the stuff I'm finding a little punishing will likely get easier, but then they'll introduce more things that'll make it more complicated. So, so in general, I'm really having good fun with the game, but it's very much like, look at the trailer. If that kind of game looks like it's going to be a fun time, you're probably going to like it. Just give it a chance, as I said, after the first like half an hour. But if you look at it and go, what the hell is this game? Like, who would want to play that? Then, like, this game is like $35 to $40. Like, it's not a cheap game. So, I don't know if I can say it's justified at that price yet. Plus, the music, it's the worst thing of the game. Like, for a Square Enix game, you'd expect the battle themes to generally be really solid. It's like butt rock renditions of classical music pieces. And they change every 10 levels, but there's only so much. Like, I had to turn it down halfway because when you're exploring the maps, it's like nice environmental sounds, like running water and birds chirping, and then you go into battle and it's like, it's like there's the most. I don't know what they'll think in there, really. I don't know what they're thinking. So maybe that gets better. I don't think it will.
But at the end of the battle, do you get the
You do get a little celebration thing, but it's with the same guitar, so it's like it just.
Okay.
I don't know. It's you get used to it, but that's such an easy win for them. Generally, they're generally pretty good with that stuff. So, yeah. Look, I think it's worth trying if you like the look of the trailer.
I just want to make sure before we have to do a correction for next week. Square Enix legal department, please issue the royalty check required from Mike on using the victory sound from Final Fantasy that's heavily copyrighted to him, and please don't DMCA us at the end of the stream.
Imagine if it picked that up. Wow.
They do. People have
Even
hummed
that,
stuff on
just
Twitch
saying-
and being like struck. It's kind of
Holy
crazy.
moly.
Hey, Swinny, like that is an incredible. I think you've actually threaded the needle of explaining that game to me as an outsider, and I don't play that many RPGs, and I know you're a super fan, but I was like, okay, I get like what it is. Doesn't appeal to me. Feels like almost the perfect game for you in a weird way, because it's like playing with a genre, breaking it all down into its root, components and everything like that, which is very interesting as a thing to play and look at. But yeah, especially at that price point, man, that feels like a $9.95-ish game for me to just go, oh, maybe I'll have a crack.
Yeah, this if this game had random battles, it'd be a very different story. Like the fact that it doesn't have random battles means that it's a much. As I said, it's like I get the same feeling playing this as I do as Picross. It's kind of like that chill game. Can get tense, but yeah, like in terms of talking about this game, like I looked at my notes and there's so many things I didn't talk about that would it probably be in a normal review, but this game has a lot of deep systems. So yeah.
Nice. Did you want to add anything more, or we'll wrap up?
No, I'm done.